Even though the 2024 season did not go the way that Lions fans and the Lions organization wanted it to, that does not mean that we have any reason to be despairing or that we should be feeling down about ourselves. In fact, we're just getting warmed up. We're going to talk about it, so stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions friends, fans, and family members. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike. And as always, we're diving on in. Folks, I'm going to tell you something right now. When it comes to how the 2024 season ended, it didn't end the way that a lot of us wanted it to. Many of us had Super Bowl on the brain. Many of us thought we were going to get to the Super Bowl, have a chance to win the Super Bowl. I myself was one of them. And you know what? It just didn't happen. Suffice it to say, it still sucks. Suffice it to say, it still hurts. But just because of that does not mean that our time is up. It does not mean that all of a sudden now we can look forward to things not being good and this, that, and the other thing. That's not something that, we have to worry about, so to speak. But I will say this. When we are talking about the 2025 season that's upcoming, the Lions have an immense amount of things to be, looking forward to. In fact, I think the 2025 season that's coming up is going to showcase how the Lions, despite, the loss against the Commanders, we're not falling back, we're not regressing or any of that nonsense. In fact, we're only getting warmed up. In fact, we are getting ready to do even better than what we did the previous year. Now, I'm not saying we're going to have a better record per se, but you can still be a better team and have less wins than the previous year. We've seen that happen multiple times. But here's the thing. Why am I saying that in regards to this episode? Because my episode, as I've titled it, is that the Lions have sent a provocative message that the NFL just can't ignore. Well, where is that coming from? It's coming from the Pro Bowl of all things. Now, some people are going to be like, how does the Pro Bowl have anything to do with that? Let me explain. I know for some people, the Pro Bowl is not something they care for. In fact, some of them, quite frankly, hate the damn thing because it's a mockery, in their opinion, of what it used to be. They don't care for the skill positions, games and the flag football and all that nonsense. But regardless of what you feel about it, the current players like it. They like the format. They think it's still fun, competitive, the whole 9 yards. But here's what I can say about the Pro Bowl. The Pro Bowl is still showcasing the various types of talent and the level of talent that players have. Well, think about what our Lions players did at this Pro Bowl this year. We had 6 Lions players that got to the Pro Bowl. 4 were skill position players, 2 were offensive linemen. I just want to put this out there. When you take a look at how our players contributed towards our, side of the field, which is the NFC team, without our players there's no way the NFC wins. That's how big of contributions our teammates made in terms of the NFC's ability to win a 3rd straight Pro Bowl in a row. Now, why am I saying that in terms of a provocative message? What provocative message am I referring to here? Here's what I'm referring to. When you take a look at the Pro Bowl itself, that's only part of the message. The other part of the message is what is not necessarily, directly correlated to the Pro Bowl, but it's correlated to the players that went to the Pro Bowl and those that didn't go to the Pro Bowl. Let me explain something here. When you take a look at the Lions as they currently sit right now, they have what? $47 million worth of cap space. We have a 1st, 2nd, 3rd round draft pick. The Lions are actually, as far as, resources-wise, going into this offseason, we're sitting rather damn pretty. which, considering the amount of talent that this roster already has, to have that amount of cap space, to have the drafting resources that we have, that's not a very common place to be in. Because typically, if you're a top echelon team, you typically don't have a lot of draft capital because, one, you might have used it to trade up in the draft or for other players around the league, and you most likely also don't have a whole hell of a lot of salary cap space because you've had to pay a lot of top-end players. But the Lions defy both of those trajectories. In fact, they are one of the few teams in the NFL right now that can say, okay, we're a top echelon team, we're in the top 10 in terms of salary cap, and we also have sufficient number of draft components to still add more to our team. Why am I bringing that up? Well, obviously everyone wants to talk about the fact that we didn't make the Super Bowl this year. They want to use that over our head and whatever. But let me put something out here for you. Take a look about the other NFL teams that also didn't make it to the Super Bowl, but compared to where we're at in the offseason as far as resources are concerned, they're in a whole hell of a lot of worse of a position. Let me point this out for you all, folks, really quickly. The Lions, like I said, we have $46 million worth of cap space. We have draft picks. We have everything that you need for a successful offseason. Well, think about this. Some of the teams that the Lions are going to naturally be put up against next year, Packers, Ravens, Bills, Eagles. Think about this. The Lions are still one of the younger teams in the NFL, but yet we also have more assets than most teams, both young and old in the NFL. But think about those teams I just mentioned opposite the Lions, the Packers, the Ravens, the Bills, the Eagles. Take a look at the Packers. The Packers are younger than we are, but what's their problem? Their problem is their quarterback, Jordan Love. He's not shown the expected growth that he was supposed to have. In fact, this last year for him was kind of a bit of a disappointment for him. And plus, on top of that, even though they're a young team and they do have talent, they're probably the most incomplete team out of this entire group of teams I've mentioned. So they've still got a lot of things they've got to take care of. Then you take a look at the Ravens. I'm going to say this, the Ravens have very little cap space. I think they have like $5, $6, $7 million worth of cap space. And when you think about it, the Ravens did very well this year. But why did they do so well? The reason why they did so well is because they got Derrick Henry. But here's the thing, Derrick Henry's on the wrong side of 30 and he ain't getting younger. So you have very little cap space. The main reason you did so well this year was you got Derrick Henry. Henry's getting older, which means he's not going to be as effective the older he gets. So that spells problems for the Ravens. Then you take a look at the Bills. The Bills are virtually in the same area as the Ravens are. They don't have a hell of a lot of cap space. I think they only have like 12. Actually, no. They're the opposite. They're over the cap. They're $12 million over the cap space. I had that backwards. So you're $12 million over the cap space right now. And when you think about the Bills primarily are just the Josh Allen show. That's it. Oh, sure, you've got other talented pieces and players, but it's the Josh Allen show. That's all the Bills are. And then when you take a look at the Eagles, they also have little cap space, albeit they have more than the Ravens. But when you think about the Eagles, they have little cap space, but they've got a whole bunch of decisions they've got to figure out. They've got major roster decisions in terms of who they're going to re-sign. They've also got decisions on players that are getting older, whether or not they're going to come back or not. So their roster is much more in danger of having switches and changing ups than the Lions is. So when you keep that in perspective, and then you take a look at what the Lions were able to do in the Pro Bowl, it's a provocative message because it's like, okay, the Lions, due to our front office, are in an excellent space to be able to continue to do what we've been doing. To have damn near $50 million worth of cap space before the reported cap figure for the 2025 season comes out, that puts you in an excellent position. The fact that you have draft capital to make more additions to the roster the way you've been doing puts you in an excellent position. But then when you take a look at the Pro Bowl itself, take a look at how our players performed. Like I said, without our players, the NFC does not win. In fact, there's no three-peat for Eli Manning. Think about how good our players performed. And I can't really speak to anything that, Taylor Decker and obviously Frank Ragnow did because well, quite frankly, there's not really a skill position for them. It's more about how well they were able to perform in certain events. So I have to take a look at our skill position players like Goff, Gibbs, Branch, and Fox. Of those 4 names I just mentioned, 3 of them did excellent. The only one that was, for lack of a better word, not that good was Jack Fox, which is kind of a weird thing to say about him because Jack Fox is one of the best punters in the NFL. But in the event that he performed in, he didn't do very well, which I think is, kind of a little bit of a, how should I say this? Not a fair evaluation method, but it's like, listen, that's how it is. So it's like, okay, Jack Fox didn't do very good in his event, but punters are more supposed to be for distance and power than they are for short accuracy, because when you put a punter out there, you're trying to make him flip the field. You're not trying to have him punt like only 20, 30 yards. So I think that event was a little bit of a misleading one, but still, I have to be fair in how I evaluate it. But when you take a look at the other skill positions I just talked about, Goff, Gibbs, and Branch, take a look at how they performed, especially in the flag football game. When you take a look at Goff, there's a reason why Goff was named the MVP of the Pro Bowl. Goff was, again, damn near perfect. There's a reason why his nickname is Mr. Perfect. Well, in the Pro Bowl, he was damn near perfect on all counts. I'm going to put the stats up on the screen and I'm going to tell you something right now. This took me a while to find. In the Pro Bowl flag football game, and again, I understand it's flag football, 7-on-7, it's not the same as regular football. But for crying out loud, folks, let's just call it for what it is. Goff was still making very good throws, very good decisions while he was on the field. Went 10 for 11 for 90.9%, had 126 passing yards. I think it was like 11.5 an average a throw, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, perfect passer rating. So not only was he almost perfect in his completion percentage, he was perfect in his passer rating. And that's just Goff. Take a look at how Gibbs and Branch performed. Hell, Branch was the guy that got the first interception of the game, and it was off of Joe Burrow. Then you take a look at Gibbs. Gibbs was not only an offensive weapon that you had to account for at all times, but as we saw towards the end of the game, they threw him out there as a DB, and he made an excellent interception, which has got to be like, okay, I wonder what else this guy can do. So when you take a look at our skill position players, they not only performed, but they performed extremely well and against other top-end talented players. Now, granted, yes, you didn't have the Chiefs there. You didn't have some other players there as well. But it's like, listen, these are still considered top echelon players. The only exceptions I would probably say would have been Russell Wilson and freaking Drake May being there, because I don't know how in the thunder those two got there, but they did. My whole point of the matter is this. When you take a look at how the Lions players performed in the Pro Bowl, you already have seen in the regular season how they stand out amongst, the rest of the NFL, which is both superstars, regular stars, and just regular players. But when you go to the Pro Bowl, which I will admit, it is a popularity contest, but it's a popularity contest based upon the most popular players who are typically the superstar players, and yet our players still stand out head and shoulders above most everybody else. That ought to tell you something. Like I said with Goff, perfect damn near across the board in the freaking flag football game, but on top of that, he not only set the pace, but was the best quarterback in the freaking passing challenge. No other quarterback put up more than 40 points. The only one that got close to Goff was Sam Darnold, which, mind you, Sam Darnold threw an interception in the flag football game. Like I said, Goff didn't. So, just from that perspective alone, when you consider the fact that the Lions have all of the resources that they have going into this offseason, then you consider how our skill players did against the other skill players that made it to the Pro Bowl, which some of them are the best at what they do. That ought to give you some damn hope. But think about it even further than that. Just take one more step in this whole conversation, shall we? Because I'm going to tell you this right now. Even though we only saw 6 of our Lions players go to the Pro Bowl, there should have been a hell of a lot more. An absolute immense amount more. Because look at the Lions roster, and you try and tell me that we are not loaded with playmaking talent. Because, yeah, Goff, Gibbs, Branch, they all had excellent performances, strong performances. But think about this. That didn't include guys like J-Mo, Amon-Ra St. Brown. There was no Laporta out there. There was no Kirby out there. So think about it. Even though our three skill position players made a huge difference, a huge impact in our ability for the NFC to win the Pro Bowl, that was without some of our other best players being there. So again, consider just how much talent that we have that wasn't there, and we still, despite having half of our top-end talent that should have made it to the Pro Bowl, still made a huge impact. Like I just stated there, Goff didn't have J-Mo, didn't have Amon-Ra St. Brown, didn't have Laporta. In fact, think about this. Goff did not have any of the receivers that he played with during the regular season. But wait a minute here. There were at least 3 quarterbacks that did. Sam Darnold had Justin Jefferson there. Joe Burrow had Jamar Chase. And freaking Baker Mayfield had Mike Evans. So they had their top number 1 options there. Goff didn't have any of his receiving options there. Yeah, you can consider Gibbs a receiving option, but he's primarily a running back more than he is a receiving option. So again, the fact that our position players were able to do what they were able to do with more than half of our positional, talent not even being there to represent, I consider that to be a rather interesting and provocative statement because it's like, just imagine how much more of a difference it would have been had all of them been there. Because think about it, we've seen freaking teams send sometimes, 9, 10 players to the Pro Bowl? It's happened before. The Lions could have easily done that. But we only were able to send 6 and only 4 of them were skill position players. So there's that. But then I also want to end this out really quickly as to why this is a provocative message and why there is hope for 2025. What Goff showed us in the Pro Bowl, even though, again, it wasn't with pads on. It wasn't against, other defenses trying to hit him and all that nonsense. What Goff showed in the Pro Bowl is that he is an elite quarterback who can win you a Super Bowl. And you can call it what you want. The Goff detractors will say, I'm probably just a Goff simp and blah, blah, blah this, blah, blah, blah that. But okay, shut the hell up and let's just examine something here. Like I said, Goff was the only quarterback to put up 40-plus points in the QB accuracy challenge. And oh, by the way, go back and watch when Goff was doing that. He was doing that in tennis shoes. He wasn't in cleats. He was in tennis shoes and doing that. Oh, and then, like we also already know, Goff was the Pro Bowl offensive MVP, which, by the way, that was an interesting picture. If you saw the picture, Goff of the Detroit Lions, the offensive MVP, holding the Pro Bowl trophy with the defensive MVP, which is a Vikings player. That was rather interesting in my opinion. But Goff wins the offensive MVP of the Pro Bowl. He wins the pass accuracy challenge, posts a perfect passer rating in the flag football game of the Pro Bowl. So not only has Goff shown that when you put him up against some of the other best quarterbacks that are in the NFL, because, well, let's think about it. Joe Burrow was there, Baker Mayfield was there, Sam Darnold, who every Vikings fan under the sun wanted to say, oh, he should be in the MVP conversation, was there. So it's like Goff had some decent competition that was there, but Goff clearly outperformed all of them while they were all dealing with the same exact set of circumstances, except for Burrow. Because Burrow didn't have the extra 30 seconds that Goff had. But still, even if he'd had the extra 30 seconds, it really wasn't going to make much of a difference because Goff outdid him on points like absolutely crazy. But think about this as well. When you take a look at how Goff performed in the Pro Bowl, and then you take a look at how Goff did this year in the regular season, which, just to remind you all, Goff was second in completion percentage, second in passing yards, second in pass average per throw, fourth in passing touchdowns, second in passer rating, and sixth in QBR. Here's something I noticed while I was taking a look at all those numbers. Jared Goff being ranked, top 5 in virtually everything and almost top 3 in 4 out of the 6. Goff is the only pure pocket passer that's ranked that damn high in all those categories. The next closest guys you could call primarily pure pocket passers that are even close to him would be Brock Purdy and freaking Matthew Stafford. And go check out their stats. They're nowhere even close to him. Not in passer rating, not in QBR, not in passing touchdowns, pass completion percentage, nothing. So when I say Goff is an elite quarterback, not only because of what he did in the regular season, but also because of what he did in the Pro Bowl, there's a reason why I say it. And when you factor that if Goff is an elite quarterback who can win you a Super Bowl, we were still able to pretty much, destroy the AFC with the, couple of skill position players we had at the NFC for the Pro Bowl, and we have all of the resources that we have going into the offseason, I consider that to be a rather provocative message to anybody that's paying attention. It means that, oh yeah, you know what? Things didn't go our way in 2024. But if you honestly think we're just going to fade off into the night, you got another thing coming, sweetheart, because you're about to get your world rocked. Yeah, the Lions didn't get what they wanted this year. That is a bummer. But let me tell you something. It's going to fuel them going into next year. And I'm telling you this right now. The Lions are going to be better for it. They're going to be a better team than what they were this year. And I have nothing but full faith and confidence that things are going to reflect that when we see what happens in 2025. I believe that this is going to be a much better version of the Lions in 2025, regardless of the record, than what we had in 2024. I still think the Lions are going to win a lot of games. Whether or not it's 15 or not, I don't know. But having said that, I'm going to end this episode and say thank you all for watching another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all please to do this. If you subscribed and you forgot to do so at the time, please make sure you hit that bell notification icon so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Also encourage y'all to share the content with your Lions friends and family members. Share here on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Share wherever and anywhere you possibly can. And with that, whether this is your first time watching me, you guys have been watching me forever and a day, I hope y'all enjoyed the content. Hope y'all got something out of it. Also, please make sure you got something in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. Don't let anybody try to steal away your joy. It's the most valuable thing you have. And with that, I just want to say, everybody, God bless. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.